This is Sara Sach with Posh Pooch Designs, and today's video I'm going to be showing you something called arm knitting. It's a lot of fun and it seems difficult, but once you do it you're going to find that there are tons of things that you can make with this. Now this scarf right back here is a simple cowl that I did with arm knitting. Very pretty, and it's a great way to use some of those thick and chunky yarns. This one back here, I used Wool Ease from Lion Brand. This is an ivory color. And I used 3 strands. For today's and it's a number 6 chunky. For today's demonstration, we're going to be using this. And this is a number 7. And we used 3 strands of the Wool Ease. We're only going to be using 2 strands of this. And all you need is 2 skeins. We're probably not going to use the whole skein of each. Sometimes if I'm like with the Wool Ease, I had 1 skein and I rolled it into 3 balls and used the 3 balls. This one I would suggest if you don't want to get 2 skeins, get 1 skein, roll it into 2 balls, and then they're easier to work with that way. And that's all you need besides a pair of scissors. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I'm going to be using 2 strands of my thick and chunky yarn. This is so pretty. I have to look at it. It's got like a little sparkle going through it. So the way we're going to be casting on long tail knitting. So the way to determine how long you need your tail, what I do is I just sort of grab it in my hand and then I wrap it around my wrist. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because I'm going to use 2 strands of each one, and I need, I'm going to be casting on 4 stitches. And then I take this and I sort of make sure it's nice and loose, and then I grab it right here, and that gives me the length that I need for my long tail. Now, this may be more than I need, but I would rather have more than not enough. Okay, so I've got it marked here with my hand, and so past that, we're going to go ahead and make our first slip knot. And you just twist the yarn over and grab the yarn, knot the tail, pull it a little bit loose, and slip your wrist inside. Now, to determine how tight you want this, remember you have to slide this off when we're knitting. So make sure, what I do is I kind of put it on and then I put my thumb under and just give a little bit like that, and that's enough. But if you want it looser, you can. Okay, so here's our long tail, and here's our yarn we're working with. Now we need to cast on, we have this on here, we're going to cast on 4 more stitches. So this is our long tail, this is our yarn. And what I do is I just cross it over like this and make a little circle. And then I reach in and I grab that long tail like that, and I slip it right on my arm. And we'll do that few more times for our stitches. Make a circle, grab that long tail, and that long tail goes on your arm. There we go. Let's snug it down just a little. 1, 2, 3. And you can see we have plenty of long tail left here. And that's okay. At the end you can always cut it off, or we are going to need some of this to tie the cowl together. All right, let's do it again. Here's our yarn. Make a circle, grab that long tail through there, snug it up a little, both ends, slip it on our arm. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's do 1 more. So we have 5 stitches, circle, grab that long tail, and slip it on your arm. Snug it up a little. Remember, we have to slide those off. So, all right, so there's our first row. Now, we're not going to be using our long tail, so just kind of put that away, out of the way. And we're going to be using our yarn that's hooked to our skeins. Now, I'm using 2 skeins. You can use 2 balls. Remember, this is a number 7. I choose, if I'm using a number 7, to use 2 strands. If I'm using less, like a number 5 or 6, I'll use 3 or maybe 4. Just depends on how I feel about how it's crocheting up. I mean knitting. Okay, so we've got our first row on our arm. So what we're going to do is, the way we knit this is we put the yarn across our hand and we take this first one and we wrap it like that. Pull that up just a little. And then we slip that onto our other arm. Make sure you grab the yarn end, not your yarn tail. Wrap your next one over your hand, and then the part that was on your hand goes to your other hand. All right, and now we're going to put that back in our hand, wrap it over, and put that on our other hand. Okay, we'll get some more yarn here. There we go. Holding it in our hand, pull that yarn over your fist and slip that other loop on your other arm. The same thing all the way. And really it doesn't look like much yet, but what I do is after each row I put my hand down here, give it a little pull. Okay, and then I'll try to get some more yarn out, so I'm ready to go. Now when you're knitting you switch needles, and when you're hand knitting you do not. So we're going to be going back and forth. There's our first row. So we've got our yarn again, yarn tail's out of the way, we've got our yarn again. Wrap it across your hand, take your first one, go over, and then slide your hand in just like that. And that first one's a little bit complicated, or a little bit awkward's a better word for it. Snug that down, yarn back in your hand, over, slide your hand in, and grab that yarn. Okay. You sort of feel like you're tying yourself up in knots. There we go. Back in our hand, wrap the yarn over, slide your hand in. Alrighty, so now we've done 2 rows. You can see we're starting to get this lovely scarf. Let's do another one. Get me some yarn out here to work with. Set that aside. My yarn tail out of the way. You don't want to accidentally use your yarn tail. Okay, so your yarn's in your hand. You're going to pull that over and slide that loop on your other wrist. Yarn in your hand, slide it over. Now keeping gauge in this is complicated, so you won't get what I call perfect gauge, but you will get a little bit if you try to keep your hands close and snug it down each time. Okay, so now we've done our 3rd row, and it's starting to look like a really pretty scarf. So now I've got my scarf, or my cowl, as long as I want it to be. I need to cast off. And remember, after every row, to kind of gently give it a little pull, and you can see, isn't that beautiful? What a beautiful scarf that's making. Okay, so now we want to cast off. So the way we do that is you go ahead and do the first one to your other arm. Pull that yarn back. Now we'll do the second one to our other arm, but what we're going to do here is we're going to take the first one we put on and take it off so that we only have the one loop on our arm. So now we'll go back over here, we'll put the next one over and put that on here, and then again we'll wrap this one over this one so that we only have the one loop on our arm, and here we're binding off. Okay, so back over to this one, do that normally, just like we would with arm knitting. Pull that just a little, snug it down a little. Now we're going to take this one and put it over this one. And we're binding that off. And here's the edge. You can see we're binding off. All right, and then we have the last one. Do that over, put that on that wrist. Then we'll take the last one. So we only have one loop left on our arm. Let me hold this so you can see. Here's where we're binding off. We have this one loop. I pull it up like that, and I like to cut a good length. If you're going to make a bow or tie, you just need to make sure you got enough to work with. And then we take the string and we put it through and snug that down. Okay, now what do we do on the ends? That's a good question. What I do is I usually just go through like this and just make a nice tie off. It's nice and tight. Then I go to the other end. This is where we started, and I'll do the same thing. I'll pull that a little bit snug. I'll go through that first stitch, leaving a loop and pulling that through. Okay, so now we have our scarf. Like this, and I'm going to turn it around so you can see what I'm going to do. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two ends and basically I'm just going to tie them together. Now if you want it just to be a regular scarf, then you could weave those in more and tie them off and just wear it as a regular scarf. But I want mine to be a cowl, and the reason is I lose scarves. So I'm just going to tie a bow just like that. And then I can slip that over my neck, and the bow's in the back, or I can put it on the side, however I want to do it. Now, the length of these is totally up to you. This one's shorter because it's a cowl, but I still have plenty of yarn left that I could go a lot longer. So that's totally up to you, but that's how you arm knit. I hope that you understand how to cast on, how to knit, and how to bind off. Really simple, really fun project. And what a great thing to do if you forgot your knitting needles and you're on a trip. Grab some thick yarn and arm knit. Thanks for watching my video, and have a great day.